The ice exploded outward, sending shards flying. Lumi's entire body blazed with red light, her golden eyes now burning crimson. She had mutated. She was no longer just a smile. She was something more, something endangered, something furious. Her form flickered, moving even faster than before, her glowing aura rippling like fire. The elite hunters hesitated. That was their mistake. Lumi pounced. She dodged the first strike, her movements a blur, and grabbed one of the hunters by the wrist. With a scrack, she twisted his arm and slammed him into the tunnel wall. His body crumpled from the force. Another hunter swung a reinforced chain, aiming to snare her limbs, but she was already gone. She reappeared behind him in an instant, grabbing his neck and forcing him back against the stone. For the first time, she was fighting to survive. Sebastian watched, a flicker of hope igniting in his chest. She was winning. But then a barrage of gunfire ripped into Lumi's side. She staggered, blood dripping down her arm, her aura flickering under the relentless assault. One of the Elite Seven, a towering hunter with inhuman strength, slammed a heavy wooden log into her back. Lumi gasped, the impact sending her skidding across the ground. She tried to stand, tried to keep fighting. But there were too many. Even in her mutated state, she was overwhelmed. She was alone. Her red glow flickered. Boom, boom, boom. The final barrage came. Hatchets, shotgun blasts, all aimed directly at her. Lumi let out one last desperate cry, but it came out as a distorted, broken laugh. Her golden eyes dulled. Her body twitched. Then she fell still. Sebastian collapsed, his entire world crashing down around him as he watched Lumi's lifeless body. Tears welled in his eyes, his hands shaking as he reached for her. But the hunters got there first. One of them stepped on her limp corpse, boots crushing her delicate frame as he reached into his satchel. Then, like vultures, they began their work. Sebastian watched in horror as the hunters dismantled her body, collecting what they needed to sell for profit. Her limbs, her glowing aura, her mutated remains, all worth thousands. She wasn't a person to them, just a product. Sebastian's stomach twisted, bile rising in his throat. The elite hunters stood over him, their weapons dripping with her blood. Their expressions were cold, empty, indifferent, as if what they had done was nothing more than another hunt. As if she had been nothing. Sebastian's throat was raw from screaming. His fingernails dug into the frozen ground, his vision blurred by the tears burning down his face. He had begged them to stop. He had pleaded with them. And they had slaughtered her anyway. His body shook violently, grief twisting into something darker, colder. The leader of the elite hunters, a scarred man with a katana, wiped his blade against Lumi's lifeless remains. Then he stepped on her one last time before turning away. "Let's move." The others started walking, their shadows stretching as they disappeared down the tunnels, leaving Sebastian alone in the ruins of what had once been hope, far beyond the tunnels, beyond the reach of human cities, and deeper than any underground cavern. Something stirred. A slow, rhythmic pulse echoed through the darkness, like a heartbeat waking after centuries of silence. The air vibrated, thick with raw energy. And then it opened its eyes. Somewhere in the vast, empty darkness, a voice rumbled. "Lumi." The presence moved. Fast. Too fast. A red streak tore through the underground pathways, the very ground fracturing in its wake. It was coming. A faint chuckle echoed through the tunnels. Not from Sebastian. Not from the elite hunters. The tunnels themselves seemed to be laughing. Then, the ground shook. The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen force that pressed against the cavern walls. A low rumble vibrated through the tunnels like a distant earthquake drawing closer. Sebastian's breath hitched. Something was coming. The elite hunters stopped, their trained instincts flaring with unease. They turned, their hands drifting toward their weapons. A deep crimson glow filled the space ahead, illuminating the tunnel like a raging fire. The red light pulsed, slow and steady, like the rhythm of an ancient heartbeat. And then he arrived. A figure emerged from the darkness, stepping forward with slow, deliberate movements. He was tall, too tall. His long black coat billowed slightly as he walked, the fabric shifting unnaturally, as if it wasn't entirely bound by the laws of this world. His entire body pulsed with a red aura, but it wasn't like Lumi's. It was deeper, darker. It burned, but it did not flicker. It was a constant, steady inferno, controlled rather than wild. His face was obscured, but his eyes, they burned, not with rage, not with sorrow, but with something worse, judgment. The elite hunters did not move, not out of strategy, not out of discipline, but out of instinctual primal fear. This was not a smile like the others. This was not a legend or a myth. This was the king, and he was real. He ignored the hunters entirely. He walked forward, his steps slow, calm. The very ground cracked beneath his feet. He stopped before Sebastian. For a long moment, he simply stared. Then, without hesitation, he grabbed Sebastian by the throat and lifted him effortlessly into the air. His grip was iron, but there was no anger behind it, no malice. Only a question. His voice was deep, steady, and terrifyingly calm. "Where is Lumi?"